Hey everyone, welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus a little bit of insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is AMC's Christian Harloff.
That's right. Hello, AMC Movie Talk fans. It is the crew. We're here today, and look, stop talking about the Grammys, stop talking about Better Call Saul and Walking Dead. It's time to talk movie news. And John, Alicia, Amy Rose, and Schnepp are in Atlanta right now.
I'm here.
What did I say, Alicia?
Yeah.
Sorry, AMC. That's what happens when you put me there.
Steady on.
The loons are running the asylum. Here we go. So, Ashley, well, who else we got on the panel today?
Also here is AMC's Mark Ellis.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for everybody coming out to Tampa to see me this weekend, all the AMC movie fans, and the brother of one Christian Harloff.
What?
Yeah.
And also here, not in Atlanta, is AMC's Alicia Malone.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm right next to you, Christian.
Praying for it.
Hello.
And also here, AMC's Miri Jetikin.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm here also.
Well, the weekend box office results are in, and SpongeBob SquarePants Sponge Out of Water took the #1 spot with 56 million. In the #2 spot, American Sniper stayed strong once again, taking 24.1 million in its 7th week. The 3rd spot went to the new Wachowski's film Jupiter Ascending with a disappointing 19 million. In 4th, Seventh Son creeped in the top 5, making 7.1 million. And rounding out the top 5 is Paddington, making 5.3 million. Christian, what stands out to you about these box office results?
I mean, there's a ton that stands out. First of all, it shows that SpongeBob making 56 million is pretty awesome. And it shows that the fan base, I mean, the show, I don't even remember when the show debuted, but that it still has this audience built in and that new fans are finding it. That says a lot, that, I mean, 56 million. And granted, the things that it's going up against maybe isn't for the same audience, but American Sniper holding in at 2 is still a big surprise because yes, we know how much of a juggernaut that movie is, but it keeps making this kind of money. And #3, Jupiter Ascending, I thought that movie would make at least 40, 45 million because show some respect to what the creators of The Matrix did. Apparently not, 19 million. And then you get that fart bomb, I guess that's Seventh Son, 7.1, it sneaks in there, and then Paddington still just truggling along. So that's really what stands out to me. But Miri, what'd you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there were no major surprises. I actually wasn't that surprised to see American Sniper still in the running because word of mouth is still the most powerful marketing tool, and it's got incredible word of mouth. I mean, just the buzz alone and the controversy alone around Chris Kyle and his story is enough to kind of keep it there and keep it in people's minds when they go to the movies this weekend. And SpongeBob is like, you know, maybe the president of the free world. I mean, he's everywhere. It's a little scary, but yeah, I guess, you know, parents go with their kids and that adds to the box office.
I think a lot like the zombie apocalypse, genres love to cannibalize each other at the box office, and I think that's what you saw happen with Jupiter Ascending. I think that most people that wanted to see a fantasy film chose that over The Seventh Son, but I think when you saw the marketing campaigns for both of them, they weren't critically that well received either, so that's going to hurt. I think that with SpongeBob, he took all the money that Paddington was going to make, and the fact that SpongeBob made this much money tells me one thing. We're going to see a lot more SpongeBob at the movie theaters, and hopefully the next SpongeBob movie, he can be out of water the entire time.
Alicia?
Well, I wasn't surprised that SpongeBob was #1 because it does transcend generations. You've got the nostalgic factor of people who watched it on Nickelodeon, and then you've got the parents with the kids and the younger kids, and that irreverent humor is so great. Everyone can enjoy a bit of SpongeBob. I was surprised at how much money SpongeBob made, but it just shows you nowadays February is such a great time, especially for these family-friendly movies like Lego Movie.
Absolutely.
And American Sniper's just waiting for something else to come up there and give it some sort of competition in that genre, and nothing's doing it.
That's the craziest part for me, because I agree with you. I'm not shocked that American Sniper stayed in the top 5, but the fact that it held out at #2, beating both Jupiter Ascending and Seventh Son, because those genres, fantasy and sci-fi, they're hot right now with Guardians of the Galaxy and, you know, and even the Hobbit movies, so you think maybe more people would want to see a brand new one, and that wasn't the case. All right, Ashley, what's next?
Universal has announced that a sequel to the hit Seth Rogen, Zac Efron comedy Neighbors is on the way. The sequel is slated to be released on May 13, 2016, with Seth Rogen, Rose Byrne, Zac Efron, and director Nicholas Stoller all returning. The first Neighbors went on to make $269 million worldwide. Miri, what are your thoughts on a Neighbors sequel?
I love this. I loved Neighbors. I thought it was one of the funniest movies of last year. And I think if there were ever a sequel I would support and stand behind, I think it would probably be this. I think because the same team is coming back, you've got the same director, you've got the same guys. Rose Byrne was a highlight for me. I thought she was so ridiculously funny in this movie, so I'm all for it. I say it's a buy, even though we're not buying it right now. I buy this.
I'm not loving it. I'm not loving the announcement. Only because like you said, the first one. Sometimes I feel that they just rush a sequel with comedies. Comedies are very, and I think not too long ago on this show they asked what second comedies were good, and it's like a handful.
It's a very
22
short
Jump
list.
Street.
That's right, but you can put that on there for sure. Yeah, that's an ish.
Yeah.
You know, there are very few, and sometimes they just rush them out. And because what was so cool about this was, yes, the dynamic between Seth Rogen and Zac Efron, and that kind of back and forth, and these crazy neighbors. Is it going to be a lot of the same jokes? Because it's not 22 Jump Street. You are allowed to do the same jokes because that was the point of the movie, was to show you that it's exactly the same movie. When unless they say, hey, it's the same movie again, I don't know. It makes me nervous. It's not to say that it can't be funny. I just don't care that much right now, Alicia.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Comedy sequels are so hard to do because you have to give more of what people love from the first while also making it feel fresh and new. Horrible Bosses 2, we saw this recently, where it just couldn't do it a second time around because the first time had such great shock value. And Neighbours was such a great complete story. It ended perfectly. Right. You don't need to see that happen again. And it's harder to set up a second time as it was. It's easier to set up the 22 Jump Street because the guys are back for another adventure. But I get it, makes financial sense, made a lot of money, and I'll probably see it.
But he works at Abercrombie and Fitch now, or whatever.
But are they going to feud now?
However, the end of that film gave me hope that you could have a sequel with this because some of the funniest parts of Neighbors are before Efron and Rogen were really feuding together. It's when they were bonding that one night. They're both doing their Batman voices to each other. And the end of the film, when Rogen sees Zac Efron in his current workplace, I was like, you know what? If they can start to be buddies and then there's a new threat to infuse more comedy, I think this could work.
It could, maybe this, but when you say that, it could be funny, is it doesn't necessarily have to be neighbors in a house. You could have neighbors at a competing store or something too, so that there could be something that's funny, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. But it's a good team. All right.
I'm sure I'll see it still.
Well, we come to the point of the show where it is buy and sell. It's pretty easy how this works. Ashley's going to read down some more movie news stories, and we're simply going to say if we buy it or sell it. Ashley, what do you got?
The Red Band trailer for the upcoming biopic Straight Outta Compton has been released. Following the meteoric rise and fall of NWA, Straight Outta Compton tells the astonishing story of how these youngsters revolutionized music and pop culture forever the moment they told the world the truth about life in the hood and ignited a cultural war. Starring O'Shea Jackson Jr., Corey Hawkins, and Jason Mitchell as Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, and Eazy-E, Straight Outta Compton is directed by F. Gary Gray and opens in AMC theaters on August 14th. Mark Byers saw this trailer for Straight Outta Compton.
Oh, I'm throwing a lot of dead presidents at this, man. I am so excited. This is maybe my most anticipated non-comic book film of the summer because what this story is how revolutionary this group was when they came into prominence. And I was a little skeptical, I think like a lot of people, when you saw the picture of the cast playing the role of NWA, especially O'Shea Jackson, and it's like, well, he's just playing his old man. Once I saw this trailer, and particularly the scenes with him on stage behind the mic, I thought I was watching Ice Cube. I think this is perfect time for this film to come along because people are going to realize that Ice Cube isn't just the guy from Are We There Yet? Dr. Dre isn't just the headphone guy. These people had a huge influence on all facets of culture, plus F. Gary Gray directing it. The guy's done everything. He started out in music videos, so he knows that world. He did everything from Friday to The Italian Job. He is the perfect guy to take this film to the next level.
I'm with you, dude. Big buy here for me because I wanted to see this movie beforehand, and I was curious. After this trailer, I am fascinated by this story. I think it's a kind of biopic that I want to see that doesn't seem like it's the same formulaic ones as ones in the past. Plus, it's such a fascinating story. And I don't know enough about what happened with NWA. I remember the music, but I don't remember like the whole story of how they formed. And I know there's been a lot of conversation about Ice Cube's son and him being cast and whether or not that was, nepotism or whatnot. Not only does he look just like him, and obviously it's probably his dad dubbed over, but he's got the mannerisms, and his dad was working with him. What I really enjoyed about the Red Band trailer was the introduction in the beginning from Dre and Cube, setting it up, and then I think this is a movie that is a necessary Red Band because of the nature of the language behind it and everything, and even what the band's name is. So all of this stuff put together, it's a big buy. I'm very excited. Alicia?
I buy, I'm straight out of Canberra.
Well done.
We Aussies will know is not cool at all. And I have no idea about NWA. Even when I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, that's what it stands for?
Oh, really?
I have no clue. I recognize the songs, but no idea of the story. So I'm fascinated by this. And I love how the trailer makes the comparison of the non-violent protests of their songs and how it affected the streets and where they lived. And that intro was so sweet. You know, they're rolling down there with their big car and having a trip down memory lane. So I'm really interested.
Well, what it also did was show that what the impact that they had on their neighborhood and their culture. But Miri?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a unanimous buy for a lot of obvious reasons. I loved the introduction, not only for the reasons like you're saying that they get the recognition in their neighborhood, but also because it's like their stamp of approval. If Dre and Ice Cube are down with this movie, I'm down with this movie.
Right.
And I have to say, you know, I grew up in Montreal. I was a white Canadian Jewish girl, and I remember listening to NWA in summer camp, and I was very young, and I remember just being completely moved and inspired and disturbed by the lyrics as a kid. So I feel like it has permeated culture so much, and I feel like this is the perfect movie to come out right now. You know, we're dealing with so much injustice still, and you know, I know that there are black women out there who are afraid to send their boys out to school because they might get shot. So I feel like this is definitely relevant and timely, and I feel like all the political stuff, plus the fact that it just looks like a straight up, really badass movie. So I'm excited for it.
Well said. All right.
you.
Ashley, what is next?
The Hollywood Reporter released exclusive images from Miles Teller's latest project called Bleed for This, which tells the true life story of boxer Vinny Pizienza. The official synopsis for Bleed for This is the inspirational story of world champion boxer Vinny Pizienza, who after a near fatal car crash, which left him not knowing if he'd ever walk again, made one of sport's most incredible comebacks. The images show Teller in what seems to be one of the most physical roles in his young career. Alicia Byers saw these images of Teller and Bleed for This.
Definitely buy. He looks so different in these images. He looks like a man. And I think this is a movie that will show him as a man. And also you can't help see him all bloodied and not think of that scene in Whiplash. He was so incredible in Whiplash. I think he's only been left out at the Oscar conversation because that Best Actor category was so packed and the studio cost money to campaign, so they thought JK is the better push. But Miles, I think he'll really prove himself in the next few movies. I don't watch boxing at all, but I love boxing movies. There's something about that redemption within the ring that is so powerful, like Raging Bull. And this one's executive produced by Scorsese, so I'm in.
Mark?
I'm buying this. I'm buying that Miles Teller loves to torture himself. I mean, my God, he just loves bleeding on camera. But then you see these pictures and it's like, yeah, it's a story that I'm not familiar with at all. I had no idea that this was ever a thing that actually happened. And then to take this into the ring and to cast Miles Teller, I think that you see the commitment that he put into his character in Whiplash and how dedicated he was to really looking. I mean, he looks like he's playing those riffs in Whiplash. And so here, I think this might have been a walk in the park for that dude after training for Whiplash. Now, all I have to do is look like a boxer. That's a piece of cake.
Miri?
Yeah, I buy this. I just buy Miles Teller. I think he's making great choices. He's a really exciting young actor. I feel like you're right, Alicia. He's kind of coming into his own as a man. And these images do make me think of Raging Bull. And I wonder if Miles Teller has the kind of career that Robert De Niro had, because he can kind of touch everything. He's doing comedy. He's young, don't forget. Like, he's just in the beginning of his career. And I'm really excited to see what he does next. I buy this wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I buy it as well. And I buy the images for sure because I am a boxing fan and I like Pazienza. And he had that bull-like quality, and he went through a tragic something that was going to end his career. And I'd like to see, and we've seen that with whether it be Spectacular Now or with Whiplash, the kid has acting chops, and the fact that he's now moving into this more physical role, and like Mark said, he's punishing his body more and more each role. He is somebody, like a boxing movie for me, if done right, is one of the, it just takes everything what the human spirit can do. And there's the other one that Gyllenhaal's got coming out as well too.
Southpaw.
Your husband.
Yeah, your
He's not at home taking care of your children.
No.
I know.
Well, you have, and you see that. I like that. There's some more boxing movies. We haven't had a lot of great ones. Talking about sequels, there's a few boxing movies.
There's a few boxing sequels that I can think of.
A few.
1, 2, 3, 4, not 5. Rocky Balboa.
But if done correctly,
Yeah.
you have a really great opportunity to do stuff. And I agree with you. He's transcending from that boy to a man. So I buy it.
Could be one of the best training montages we've had in boxing films
We'll
in
see.
a long time.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right, Ashley.
While on the podcast, Allison Rosen is your new best friend, director James Gunn shared some thoughts on the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy sequel. It's not really based on anything. The story for Guardians 2 is an original story that I came up with, that I started working on actually while I was shooting Guardians 1, and it'll answer some of the questions that were put forth in the first movie about Peter Quill's father and who he is and what's going on with that. We'll get to know some of the characters a little bit more, and then we're going to meet a couple of new characters who will be very important to Guardians movies and probably important to the Marvel Universe as a whole. It's different than what's in the comic books. Peter Quill's father is somebody different in the comics, so when the movie came out, we got greenlit on the sequel right away. I went in and I sat down with those guys and I'm like, okay, here's what I think the sequel should be, and they were like, oh, whoa, that's risky, but okay. Now I'm going to turn over the story in a few short weeks and we'll find out how well it works. Christian, buy or sell Gunn's comments and Marvel's reaction?
I buy his comments and I buy the reaction. One of the things what Marvel's doing so well is, and I know that the first comment's going to be, well, they didn't do this with Edgar Wright, is letting a lot of their directors take chances. The difference is that James Gunn has already proven himself inside of their universe. It's the fact that he wanted to do this pitch. They trusted in what he did with Guardians. He worked with them well on Guardians. So now he's got these comments. Whether it's Warlord or whoever it turns out to be Star-Lord's father, hopefully it's a nice twist for us that we enjoy it, we like it. We trust him right now. He's done everything right. So I definitely buy the comments. And the fact that Marvel could go, whoa, that is risky. Go ahead, dude. Good for them. So I'm buying it. Miri, how about you?
Yeah, I buy it also because, regardless of whether you're a fan of the comics or not, the movie experience is always different from the comic book experience. And we know that James Gunn did a great job with the first film. He's bringing back the whole team for the second film. And if there's any director I would want to see take chances and do something different, it would be him. Because he's so good at that, and if you watch his other films, you see he is not one to shy away from a risk, and it usually works. His stuff usually lands, and I have huge faith in him. I think he's wonderful, and I look forward to the sequel.
Mark?
I'll buy the comments. I mean, what it looks like to me, though, is that he's got this great concept, and he really wants to push forward with this particular storyline. And now you show it to everybody else, and you see how the rest of the band reacts to your material that you brought to him. So it seemed purposefully vague to me that we're not really we haven't settled on anything too concrete yet, that I'm going to put this in front of the council, and then everybody is going to vote on, okay, I like this part of the story, this part of the story. I like that we're going this direction with his dad, but I think that he was vague because he couldn't get too specific yet.
You think Adam Warlock is going to be the Star-Lord's father?
I think it wouldn't be a bad twist.
Because they teased him a little bit in Guardians. I'm just curious. Alicia?
Well, and that's the reason why I'm interested in it. The new characters that they mentioned, they say new characters that'll be important to the Guardians and to the Marvel Universe. Because that's something that intrigues me about Guardians, is how they can interact with the rest of the Marvel movies, because it seems so separate and so different. And I would love to see them all converge somehow if that were to happen. But because if anyone could pull off a risk, it's James Gunn.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we are going to take some live Twitter questions from you guys in a little bit, but it is AMC mailbag time. So easily what you guys do throughout the week, you guys will submit to AMC Movie Talk at gmail.com. You submit some questions, we take them, and we read some of them on the air. And what's the first one now, Ashley?
Christy Belisi writes, I've been listening to your show for about 2 years now and simply cannot miss an episode. Thank you for keeping me informed and entertained, and for urging me to see movies I wouldn't have normally thought twice about, for example, John Wick. You were talking about whether or not the runtime of a movie affects the movie as a whole, such as how King Kong could have possibly been fine if cut down a half an hour or two. My question is, do you think that we will ever see an intermission during a film, such as we did during the classic epics Gone with the Wind or The Ten Commandments? Granted, those movies are 3+ hours long, but do you think a current filmmaker would ever do this again instead of cutting down the movie?
I don't know. I think it's also selective because there are some movies that are 3 hours that absolutely fit. Like for me, Braveheart is one of those movies I don't want to cut a single second out of Braveheart. And sometimes you put Judd Apatow's movies are close to 3 hours and don't need to be. Like 2:40, 2:30, whatever they are. It's selective. It depends on the story. It depends on the film. It depends on the filmmaker. I don't know, Alicia. How do you feel about it?
I love it in Gone with the Wind because it feels like theatre, and I love that the projectionists at the time had very specific guidelines as to how they should play the intermission, 7 minutes long, but if they need to, they can repeat it. One of my favourite quotes from Alfred Hitchcock is, "The length of a film should be directly related to the endurance of a human bladder."
90
and
minutes.
that's how I feel,
90
because it can, 90 minutes is about all I can handle, and I hate having to squeeze out there and go run to pee and come back. Interstellar, I had to monitor my liquid intake.
Right.
So much so that it
drink for
almost
3 days.
it
Yeah.
almost took away from my enjoyment of the movie because I was so worried I'd have to leave. So I would prefer, if the movie is going to be long, and they can hold your attention, like Braveheart, it should have a little intermission for people with little
I think there
bladders.
should be an intermission. Every movie should have one of these things. I have the bladder of an infant, okay? You
Yeah.
can't sell me a 60-ounce Coke at the lobby, then expect me to hold all that in during the entire length of the film. I think the last movie that had an intermission was The Joke in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, when they cut to intermission briefly. I'd love to see this again. I think it'd be really cool, but it would have to be, the running time would have to be at least a 3-hour movie. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to realistically do this.
Well, you know when they do intermissions also, is when they
No,
throw
it's
these
fine.
big marathons, whether it be for Star Wars or whether they're going to do that for Star Wars and Hunger Games and all that stuff as well, too. So
Thank God.
But
Yeah,
uh,
can
There's
you
6 movies they're going to
well,
play.
that's what I'm saying. So you're going to do that, and I know that in the play for Into the Woods, there was an intermission, and when it is actually translates into the film, it's that part you wish the movie would have been over. Sorry, Mary.
No, it's all good. I think it's great. I think it would be great to have intermissions all the time. But I wonder if today's audience would be able to manage it just in terms of like storytelling, because the way stories are told has changed. So even though movies can still be 3 hours long, the audience that went to see Gone with the Wind had a very different set of viewing habits than we do. So I wonder how, I think it would be a cool experiment. I personally would like to have intermissions for long films, like you were saying Interstellar. I was sitting right in front of you and I was feeling the same way.
I was in the middle as well.
Especially that big tidal wave. I was like, oh my God.
They should have just given out
How much
astronaut suits
longer?
at the movie theater, and you can just go right
Just
there.
pee in the suit.
You know why? You know why they can't do it though? Also, this is because of ticket prices too.
Yeah.
So you're running into, especially depending on when the movie comes out, you're running into other times,
Yeah.
and it's
Makes it
like you
longer.
said, Mary. It's so different,
It's different
now.
now.
It was almost like a theater experience back. Not a movie theater experience, but like when you go, you see a
The
play,
theater.
the theater,
Or
It's-
ballet, or the opera,
Right,
or
well,
any
that's
live
exactly right.
performance, you know?
That's what it was back
Yeah.
then, and it's just changed. So I don't think we're going to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, Ashley.
Adam Schaefer writes, "Hey AMC Movie Talk, love the show. You are all super insightful and informal. Do you ever think we'll see a Starship Troopers reboot? I love the original and would like to see what they can do with it today. Thanks for your time."
Yeah, I do think we're going to see a reboot for this. This is a movie that's calling for a reboot. I think you can have a lot of fun with it. I think it could be, but the problem is when the last Paul, can you help me out?
Verhoeven.
Verhoeven, thank you.
Verhoeven, yeah.
Paul Verhoeven movie that we've seen that they've tried to remake didn't work out that well. RoboCop was fine. It wasn't as great as the first one.
I liked it.
Yeah, but it's not as good as the original, obviously.
Agreed.
No, certainly
Now,
not.
I just want to see them have the same kind of fun that they have, but I do think they're going to wind up doing a remake. But Mark, what do you think?
But Starship Troopers, that first film ain't exactly RoboCop from 1987
No, it's
either.
not.
Like, Starship Troopers is a fun movie. I think they should reboot it and call it Bugs and Boobs in Outer Space, because that's the
I'd
appeal
see that.
of Starship Troopers to me. I don't need to see a reboot of this. I think it's a cool movie. It's a neat concept, but you could also just make an original sci-fi film that had some of these concepts in it. You know, just have another premise with the shower scene, and I'd be just as happy.
Alicia?
I don't really like reboots, but I think that the book has a lot of things to say, the Starship Troopers book. So I think if they made something that had more to do with the book than a remake of that Verhoeven movie, then it could be really interesting. As long as they don't remake Showgirls.
Well, that's one that
perfection.
Yeah.
If they remake Showgirls, they better have an intermission, okay?
Yeah.
Because I need to take a break for my personal reasons.
shower.
A cold shower break, a cold shower intermission.
Mary, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're rebooting so much. I think it would be shocking if they didn't do this
Yeah.
one. But at the same time, I agree with you that it's not RoboCop. It doesn't have the same sort of cultural significance or impact. I'd be fine with it. I do think they should call it Bugs and Boobs in Outer Space.
Yeah.
And if they could take the Muppets Pigs in Space and maybe Mel Brooks Jews in Space and bring all of that together to do Bugs, Boobs, Jews, and Pigs in Space, I
Machete
would
in
totally go
Space.
see that. Yes.
Yeah, to quote the great John Lovitz, brilliant! All right, it is live Twitter, I was going to say, live Twitter time. You guys have submitted questions to the Movinator. She's going to read some out to us. All right, Ashley, what do you got? And you please tell me that you've watched Princess Bride.
I did, as you
Yes.
wished I did.
All right.
Nice.
Alan Roches writes, do you think GOTG2 will continue with a fun comedic tone, or do you think Gunn will give it a more dark, gritty tone?
It always seems like sequels nowadays are going to have like a grittier tone, especially when it's obviously leading up to somewhere else. But Guardians is a movie that needs to have the humor. That was one of the endearing things about it. It needs to have that comedy, and it's going to be impossible to not have that comedy when you have Chris Pratt and Rocket and Rocket and Groot's relationship. So regardless of where the story will eventually lead down, whether that be a dark tone or not, you're going to still have humor, and you need the humor.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see it getting much darker, but I do think that there is like the Empire Strikes Back effect where a sequel, because it's, especially if it's part of a trilogy or part of multiple movies, kind of has to go down that rabbit hole and get a little bit sketchy for the protagonist. So, you know, I think it might get darker, but I agree with you. I think it'll still be funny and a good time.
Well, he's also finding out who his father's going to be. So, yeah, there's some Empire Strikes Back isms
Exactly.
going on. But, yeah, of course, I think you're going to have a great sense of humor in there. I think you're going to get more laughs with Guardians of the Galaxy 2 than any of the other Marvel sequels that are going to be coming out. Just like with Guardians, you got more laughs than any other Marvel film up to that point. And those laughs, by the way, there were stabs at humor that I think worked for the most part in all the Marvel cinematic films, but nothing hit as hard or as consistently as Guardians of the Galaxy. Great question, Alan. Thanks for giving me that free Starbucks tea this weekend in Tampa.
Nice.
There were also some touching moments in Guardians, you know, the
Yes.
beginning bit and then the
Yeah.
Groot
Tears.
situation.
First 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I think that they'll do both with
Well, that's
the
a great
sequel.
point. Yeah, that's a great point because you're really combining everything that, whether it be having dark moments and fun moments, and it's a collection. That's what made Guardians so special. Not only was it property no one knew about at all, it's that when you finally do see it, you felt every emotion. So that's a great question. Thanks, Ellen. Okay, Ashley, what do you got?
Hartwell Heisenberg writes, thoughts on the Eminem movie 8 Mile? I think it's kind of underrated.
Oh, I like it.
Do you like it?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about this movie yesterday. I was thinking about it and saying, I really want to rewatch that movie because the song came on, the Eminem
Yourself,
song.
yeah.
Lose Yourself?
Lose Yourself,
Yeah.
yeah. And I thought about how great he was in that role. I mean, playing himself, but he really showed some dramatic chops. And then Brittany Murphy, she was fantastic. And then that sex scene, what?
Awkward.
So I think it's underrated. Yeah, awkward.
It's an awkward.
Oh, awkward.
Yeah,
I thought it was a nice
expression.
expression of love.
All right.
I think the film's properly rated. I think it's great. I think it's a great piece of art. I think, yeah. But thank you for acting that out. I enjoy. I think everybody holds that to a pretty high standard as far as film goes. So I'm here on the panel with three monkeys who can't keep it together. But I thought it was a nice display of what happens when adults find each other attractive.
That's fine. For me, the movie, it's the end that gets me. I mean, the battle
God, I need
is.
to watch it again.
It's great.
I saw it when it came out.
The movie itself, I thought, was all right. I kind of wanted a little bit more from. I remember seeing it in the theater and thinking, oh, I wanted more of the story. I wanted to see. I thought he was good, and he was. And I know that because of him, he was supposed to be the lead in Elysium.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was supposed to be the lead, and he's been rumored for other stuff. He was supposed to do a boxing thing at one point too.
Interesting.
I don't know why. Maybe it just was an experience that he wanted to do as far as acting goes. But as far as his acting chops go, I thought he was great. I wanted to see what he did besides just portray himself or a version of himself. But the end, I could watch over and over and over again. So, Mark?
And Michael Shannon is also he's hooking up with Kim Basinger, who plays
true.
his mom in there.
That's
so.
right.
Yeah.
God, I forgot about that. I need to see that movie again. I mean, I saw it once when it came out in theaters, and I liked it. I remember liking it. I remember being surprised by it.
Yeah.
So,
All right, let's do two more.
All right, Patrick Hogue writes, hey guys, what do you think is more difficult, for an actor to break into Hollywood or an actor to make a comeback?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I think it's harder to make it. I think it's harder to make it than to make a comeback, because to get into that brass, I mean, we see it all the time at junkets and when you go to award shows or you watch award shows, like to get to that level, it's so hard to make it at that level. I mean, Deanne Wiest was just quoted as saying, I'm having trouble paying my rent. This is an Oscar-winning actress.
Really?
Who just, she was just in an interview or whatever, and she was saying how like she has trouble paying her rent.
Diane, I got a spare room.
Yeah, right?
But I mean, that's the point. Like, she won Oscars for her amazingness and is having trouble paying her rent. Now, maybe it would be harder for her to make a comeback than for somebody to enter, but I still think it's really hard. It's probably hard to do both. I don't know. It's hard to get there and it's hard to maintain it.
It's definitely harder for women to make a comeback. I'll tell you that for sure.
Definitely harder for
But
women.
in general, yeah, I agree. I think that it'd be harder. It's because you got to remember how many people are trying to get into acting, and there are selected people who have made it.
Millions.
There's a very for small
mean,
percentage of
there's-
people who have actually made it. So when you see someone, whether it be like John Travolta or whoever it is, make this comeback, they're able to latch onto an experience or an opportunity, excuse me, and make the most of it.
Yeah.
So that's not easier, but it's more likely to happen for someone who has the connections, who's
They
been in the
brand
game before.
recognition, right? People
Yes.
know
I think,
who
it,
they
I think it
are.
depends on what you're coming back from. If you're coming back from John Travolta, who just had a career lull in the early '90s, that's one thing.
came
If
back
you're
with
trying
Pulp
to,
Fiction.
but if you're trying to come back and like Mel Gibson
Yeah.
or Michael
Yeah.
Richards, you're trying to come
Yeah.
back from a public scandal, something
Yeah,
like
that's a good
that.
point.
That makes it a lot harder. Having said that, it's a lot harder to break into Hollywood. Once you're there, you can still get a free drink anywhere.
Yeah, it's so much luck to break into Hollywood because if you have to be exactly what they're looking for at that right moment, the right time, and there must be so many talented people who never get a shot, and then much less talented people who do. But I'd love to see Mel Gibson make a comeback.
He's
I
starting.
mean, regardless of what he did, I think he's such a great actor and he deserves a comeback. A good director too.
Yeah, I agree. All right, last one.
Matt Calixte writes, do you think we'll ever get a Gilligan's Island film? I can see a dark comedy version in theaters.
No.
I don't know. I don't
think so.
think the brand is speaking of brand recognition. I mean, I grew up watching reruns, and I don't even know that they air them anymore. So I think there's a whole generation of people that maybe don't even know who
like the
Gilligan's
idea of
Island
a
are.
dark
Mark
I
is
can't
offended.
believe what I'm hearing.
It's the truth.
What do you
I
wanna s-
love Gilligan's Island, but I'm saying that there are probably a lot of people that don't know
What do
who
you want
they
to
are.
say? A goofy comedy version of it?
Yes, like what the Brady Bunch was able to do, and what Starsky and Hutch tried to do, or what Dukes of Hazzard tried to do. This is the one that is most ripe for making fun of itself. You see how popular 21 and 22 Jump Street are, which, by the way, also based on a TV show, and then it
Yeah, but-
turns it on its ear. Gilligan's Island could be hysterical if done right.
That's a good point.
I'm
Yeah.
not doubting that. I'm just saying, like, maybe a lot of people
You
don't.
guys want to see your Starship Troopers?
Yeah,
but I want to see Gilligan's
That's
Island.
actually, if they did it, maybe with that team, it could be something funny if they really play it on it. Or maybe I just am worried about them getting into
Who would play Ginger? Who
like
would
a
play Marianne?
scary movie type thing.
Yeah.
Put Diane Wiest in one of the roles.
Very nice. Okay, guys, thank you for joining us on today's episode of AMC Movie Talk. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you follow on Instagram, by the way, at AMC Movie News. I'd like to thank the panel. First, joining to me at my left, Alicia Malone, who is in studio.
Yes, I'm here. And
Where
you
can they find you?
Find
Sorry.
me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Alicia Malone.
And to my right, starting off with the lovely Miri Jedikin, where can they find you?
Like Alicia, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Miri the Jedi.
That's it? That's everyone at the table? Oh, sorry. And of course, Mr. Mark Ellis. Mark, where can they find you?
5150 Ellis on social media. Next Thursday, I'm taping a TV set in New York at Gotham Comedy Club. For tickets, go to markellislive.com.
And you can find me at Christian Harloff, as well as Instagram at Christian Harloff. You can let us know how we did today. Be nice.
Yeah.
And
You did
I also-
great. You did
Thank
great.
I said us. I said us.
Go
And I'd
Bucks.
also like to thank our lovely host who has watched The Princess Bride. Finally, the Movinator herself, Ashley Mova. Where can they find you?
I sure did. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley Mova. Happy Monday, guys.
Shoulder shake.
That's right. Happy Monday to everybody. Thank you once again, and make sure that you can check out, like I said, John, Amy Rose, Dennis, Schnepp. They'll all be doing the show from Atlanta. Watch it, enjoy it. Peace out.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.